It's called a common sense diet. I don't overeat. I don't eat more than I burn in a day. I eat my foods in their most natural and whole form possible when possible. So I eat protein, fat, and carbs.
How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing really well, excited for our chat. And in preparing for this, I found out something really interesting about you as somebody who's, known for fitness and your whole life is revolving around this as what you do and what you love. You actually don't like working out. So you like the results you get from working out, but you don't actually like the process. So talk more about that.
I don't. I am not the kind of person that feels the burn in like the best way with like the endorphin high. I don't really get that. It's pretty much like a good 30 minutes of hell, but when it's over, I'm never sorry. And I appreciate, when I go to the doctor's office and they tell me like everything looks amazing, that makes me feel good, when I'm snowboarding down black diamond slopes with my kids, that makes me feel good, but the actual act of doing lunges, I don't particularly find enjoyable now.
Well, let's go back to the origin of getting into fitness. I know as a kid you were overweight, you were bullied. How old were you when you found your way into fitness and how did that come about?
I fell into fitness at about 12 years old through my martial arts instructor. My mom was dating a guy whose nephews were in karate, and I thought it was cool, and so she took me to audit a class. Um, I ended up signing up, and the rest, as they say, is history. But it was a long process over time where I began to understand, that fitness is transcendent. When you feel strong physically, you feel stronger in every facet of your life. And it took me a long time to really learn about healthy eating and to gain my confidence and self respect to believe I was capable of more. Uh, but that's kind of where it all began.
How long did it take? You mentioned confidence there. How long did it take before that started to pick up and you noticed a difference there?
I would say about a year, to be honest. Um, I'm sure. I'm sure. To be truthful, there were probably many incremental successes along the way. But I remember a pretty significant difference or shift, if you will, when I had my second degree blue belt test and I had to break these two boards with a sidekick. And I was thinking that I wasn't going to be able to do it. I'd been stressing about it for months. Long story short, I ended up breaking the two boards. And I remember walking into school the next day, just thinking like, all right, come what may, like come at me, bro. And no one ever did again. And at that point, I began to appreciate that the way I carried myself and how I thought of myself really played a large role in how other people perceived me and treated me. So it took, it took some time. I would say a good year before there was a tangible, significant difference.
And then how did you end up evolving out of the martial arts into a more classic, aerobic and type fitness, weightlifting and that type of thing?
Accident. I was training for my black belt test when I was 17, and people would come up to me in the gym and ask me how much I charged, and I was like, for what? I was like, what are you approaching me about? Of course, it was for personal training, and I think I was delivering pizza at the time for like $5 an hour. So I was thinking like, all right, how much can I make doing this? This is cool. Fortunately, my mom had the foresight to get me my first little training certification, and I fell into it again very organically. It's 17 and a half. I graduated high school early. Not because I'm a genius, just because my birthday was on a weird date. So I was training for my black belt at the gym. people asked me to train them, got certified, and here we are many, many years later.
And then I think it was through your early 20s, you were doing the personal training plus at night working at a bar as a bartender.
It
So
was.
talk about that period of time.
I fell into that as well. I was a waitress at a restaurant nightclub, ended up becoming a cocktail waitress, ended up realizing that the bartenders were the ones who, were cleaning up. And I was like, wait a minute, these guys have it on lock. But they're behind the bar and they're the ones making all the cash. So learned how to make drinks as a kid. So young at the time, obviously. Um, and I was training during the day and bartending at night and kind of living the life of Riley. Like I was making great money, super happy, having a great time. Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of, it's that sort of simple. There was no, with those things, I didn't really put a ton of thought into it. It's interesting in life. The things that were very serendipitous always ended up yielding the most fruit, when it was born from something that you were just kind of doing inherently. And I remember thinking that bartending was just a ton of fun. And I never ended up going to bars or nightclubs because I ended up working in them for the first 6 years of my 20s for the most part.
So how did you end up pivoting out of that? I know for a period of time you fell out of the fitness realm. I'm curious if you still worked out and maintained your own fitness during that time. But as a career, I know there was a pivot point there. Talk about what that was.
Yeah, I was, oh God, I was really more like 24 and a half. I don't know why I would have to throw the half in there. I was 24 and I had started dating somebody who was a television writer, a little bit older than me, Ivy League education. And all of that person's friends were in the entertainment industry. And all of a sudden, it wasn't really cool to be like a trainer and a bartender. And it was like, what are you going to do? You're going to get a real job. So I thought, like, oh, this isn't a real job. What should I do? So I started out as a production assistant on a television show. I think was called like C19. I think it was like I don't know, Secret Service show on CBS or something like that. It was such a long time ago, I don't recall. Ended up moving from there to a talent agency, getting in the trainee program. And I spent 3 years there, never making less money, never working harder, never being more miserable, only to end up as a junior agent at 27. I did take care of my own fitness though. Um, and I was always helping the people in the office, like educating them about exercise or nutrition. So to make another long story short, at 27, it just was not the business for me. I did not have the personality for it, uh, and ended up getting caught in a big political issue between these two big agents, and I ended up getting fired from the talent agency, which is, as I said, is another very long story. And it ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me because I had to make a living. Like I had no choice. I had to pay my bills. So I got back into fitness working at a sports medicine facility. And, I always say a bad day for your ego is a great day for your soul because I was like, oh my God, like I was a junior agent and, I was only 27. So thought I was really going places at the time. And now I'm like putting towels on people and ice packs on people. And I was so embarrassed. All of a sudden, a few months into this, I'm waking up to go to work and I'm happy. I'm actually looking forward to going to work. And I'm thinking like, all right, this is weird. A couple months in, I get a call from a woman I'd been working with because I was helping rehabilitate patients under the supervision of a physical therapist. And then sometimes they would graduate into fitness training, once they'd rehabbed an injury. I get a call from a woman who I'd been training for maybe 3 months. And she was in tears and she's like, I felt my hip bone for the first time in 8 years. And I remember thinking, like, wow, that's something. Like she was really emotional about it. And she's like, after my second kid, this is the first time in such a long time. And I remembered how much I had truly loved doing this job. So I began to try and find a way forward where it wasn't like hand to mouth paychecks. So from there, I used all the connections I had from the talent agency to build my own sports medicine facility by the time I was 30. And then one of those agents at the talent agency had heard about The Biggest Loser and ended up sending me in for that show. And I ended up getting it. And that's another long story short that turned out to be, history after that.
And what do you think it is about you, Jillian, that, you worked your way, I mean, you totally flip-flop careers. You were in your mid late 20s when you got back into the fitness industry. What do you think it was about you, your mindset, your maybe some luck, your timing that you're able to propel so quickly from the bottom to the top?
I wouldn't think of it as quickly. That it might appear to be quickly, but you have to remember it was like 17 to 30 with a 3-year gap. And during that time, I was learning so much about business and making a variety of different connections that served me later on. So it was really the aggregate of my experiences across the board with the different professions and the different incarnations of those professions. Uh, allowing me to run my own sports medicine facility, having the contacts to build that business from the entertainment industry, knowing how to communicate in the way I needed to gain the credibility to raise money and open that sports medicine facility, then having that and the entertainment connection to get the job on Biggest Loser. So really, well, it might have seemed fast. It was a very long process. Um, I think that, for me, I'm very authentic. Uh, whether you like me or not, at least you're like, well, if she says it, she must believe it, because I never say anything that's popular. I only say what is true, um, and I believe in passionately. I love what I do, and I think that that's critical. So, in large part, success is passion, perseverance, and patience. And I had those three things because I love the work.
And what do you say? You mentioned passion being part of the whole picture here. What do you say to somebody who is working a job like you were and you hated it and maybe they're, hate's a strong word, but maybe they hate it or they're not doing something they love. What would you say to them? I mean, you were kind of it sounds like thrown out of that career. There was a longer story, you didn't get into all the details, but it sounds like you were
I mean, I
kinda
can sort of
catapulted
get
out of
into
there.
it. It's
Well,
a,
no,
it's
I mean, yeah, maybe give us a short
a,
version of that,
so
but
yeah.
just before you get there, like, a lot of people might not have that same nudge out the door. How do they follow what they love like you've done, follow that passion and get to live
Yeah.
their dream?
I mean, I got a big nudge out that door. So there, essentially, I had come up under a guy that was a very, very big agent. And he had massive clients. I mean, like the biggest writer directors in town. He was a motion picture packaging agent. He was huge. And it was during this mass exodus from one talent agency to another of talent agents. So he did not actually promote me. Another big agent at the agency promoted me. And there was a bit of a discrepancy about a packaging fee due to the agency on a very big movie. And I hated this guy that I worked for. I just thought he was an absolute scumbag. Like a kind of Harvey Weinstein-esque sort of character. Hated this guy's guts. So the other big agent came to me and was like, "Look, I promoted you. Tell me what went on with this packaging fee." And I knew that the guy had taken stock on the down low in this company, this German company that had financed this movie, and then the packaging fee never went to the agency. This is when Jeff Berg was running ICM. So this is a very, very, very long time ago. And it was always this weird thing like, what happened to this packaging fee? So I told one of the agents, the big guy, what happened, because I hated this agent. To make a very long story short, the guy that I hated renegotiated his contract. They leveraged him into renegotiating his contract over the weekend with the information that I gave, right? Shame on me. And this is what I mean. Like, I just did not have the personality for the business because I did not like the guy. And I then was fired And that was it. Like there was no, so now I had this huge agent that hated my guts and knew that I was the one that had ratted him out. So there was no way. Like I couldn't get past go. I was essentially blacklisted from working in the business. And at 27, I was literally scraping change out of my couch to pay for gas. And nobody would touch me in that business with a 10-foot pole. So I ended up having to fall back into fitness. So, you know, at this stage of my life, I don't think I would be quite so stupid to have gotten involved. But, I thought I was this he was, I didn't like him and I was gonna show him. So dumb, but it ended up working out. So I didn't get a nudge out the door. I got a swift kick in the ass out the door. But what I can say is that there is an element of serendipity if you listen. I don't really believe in luck. Luck is that old cliche of preparation meeting opportunity, right? I think everybody will get the opportunity. The question is, have you prepared for it? So if in fact you're miserable doing what you're doing, maybe it's time to start cultivating your passion and looking at individuals who have built a business based on their passion. I think a lot of times people feel it's the irresponsible thing to do. It's like, oh, well, I love this, but that's not a real job. That's not what I should do. And if you look at individuals, like I love to use like a Caesar Milan, right? You got a guy who really likes dogs. I mean, like Martha Stewart left Wall Street to become like a happy homemaker and started a catering business out of her basement. Coco Chanel was an orphan seamstress who loved fashion. And I'm a kid that started doing martial arts to gain self-esteem. So I bring up all these individuals because if somebody said, I'm going to become a millionaire and build a massive brand training dogs, we'd all be like, okay, sure. And yet, like, it can be done. It has been done. If you're passionate and you persevere and you have patience, you do your homework, you educate yourself, you learn from your mistakes. It really is a matter of attrition.
And Jillian, what do you think about that situation that went down at the agency you're working at? Do you ever think about if that wouldn't have went down and you wouldn't have got this swift kick in the ass out the door, you didn't like it, but would you have maybe stayed there and lived a life of mediocrity? I mean, you can look back now and say that was such a good thing, but do you think you would have stayed there?
I don't know. I really don't know. God, it's so tough to say. I really hope not. But I don't think I would have had the courage to believe I could have built what I was able to doing what I love at that time in my life. Not at that time. The culture was different as well. Kids today, and I say kids, I mean the younger generation, not Z, even millennials, have a very different outlook than Gen X. I'm Gen X. We're very nihilistic. We're bitter. We're kind of that jaded generation. We really are. And millennials they're a lot more hopeful. They're out on social media, they're always looking to hack something. It's like, how can I get around it or cut the red tape or, find the faster way from A to B. Whereas my generation, like we got in line and we waited our turn. Like that's what we did. All of a sudden, all the lines we were waiting in all those industries collapsed overnight. And we're waiting in line for the desk job on the Today Show for 20 years. And all of a sudden this kid starts a social media channel and they're the next Katie Couric, or they're the next Oprah Winfrey, or they're the next Barbara Walters. And my generation was like, we were in line just like waiting our turn. And so I don't know, because it wasn't very Gen X to do that. I think it's very millennial to do that. So I would love to tell you, oh, absolutely. But I honestly don't know.
That makes sense. And talk about that lean period of time where you're collecting change out of the couch to pay for gas and again, we can look at where you're at today and the success, but I mean, that would only be about 20 years ago. So
I,
let's talk about that
yeah,
period.
I have an interesting life in that way. Like you think there's like this like everybody's looking for this rags to riches story, but that really, it was really strange. My father was actually a very wealthy man, but never gave anything to me. So it was like, I grew up in a household where, I was driven to soccer practice in a Ferrari, but then at 17, I was homeless because I had a very kind of weird relationship with my father, unfortunately, very kind of estranged. So and my mom was always there for me, but she really didn't have the means to help me. And so at 17, my dad ended up throwing me out. And I was living out of my car and couch surfing. And then I fell into fitness and I was making like $15 an hour doing that. And then I may or may not have been bartending underage at the time and ended up making a lot of money doing that with potentially a fake ID that I got in downtown Los Angeles because there was no tech to really check that stuff. So I ended up being able to support myself pretty well by the time I was about almost 19. And made a really good living doing that, and then didn't make a great living at this talent agency because there it's like, you make nothing. You show up first thing in the morning, you work all 7 days out of the week, you work 24 hours a day, first one in, last one to leave, that whole mentality. And it's like, you pay your dues, you pay your dues, you pay your dues. And by the time I was just about done paying those dues, I ended up getting myself fired. So at that point now I was 27 and literally had nothing. Nothing. I had like a studio apartment in Hollywood somewhere. I think I was on unemployment. In fact, I know I was on unemployment. Trying to figure out what to do. And then ended up being like, okay, what can I do? Because I wasn't able to get a job again in the entertainment industry. So I was like, well, I know how to I can train people again, I guess. I guess I could do that. So I don't remember the time frame. I would probably tell you 6 months of just trying to get a job, trying to figure it out, and then getting a job as an aide at a physical therapy clinic, and then sort of rebuilding from there.
Well, to me, it seems like a reoccurring theme throughout your story is this gritty, grinding mentality. Whether things are falling in your favor or not, Jillian Michaels is going to pick things up and make something happen. And I'm just curious, is that something that you think you were born with, or is it just something you've had to, grow in that way over the years?
That is a Gen X thing, actually. This is what I will give my generation is we are grinders. That is kind of how that was the mentality of Gen X, was like, you grind, man. You're first one in, you're last one to leave, to a fault, right? That's where I think, each generation can take a little something from the other. We could steal some of their optimism. They could maybe steal a bit of that, like, by any means necessary. So there is that component of it, is that I do think it was just generational. That's what you did. You know what I mean? Like, that's where, like, all my friends, I have friends that are still paying off their college loans. Like, it's just what you did. With that said, I also think fear is a huge motivator. It can paralyze people, but it can also be a massive source of motivation and a huge catalyst. Because if you have bills to pay, it doesn't matter how depressed you are. It doesn't matter if you can't, you have to pay your bills. You have to function. And at these various times in my life, there wasn't a choice. You don't get the luxury of falling apart. You have to figure it out. So as much as I would love to say, like, oh, I'm just this, tremendous specimen of strength and grit and resilience, I literally did not have a choice. If you'd given me the option to curl up into a ball, I would have chosen it. I guarantee you, it just wasn't a choice.
I mean, in all fairness, though, there are people that do, fall into tough times and then do go the other way. So there is something to say for the route you took.
You think so? I find that if in those instances, there's very often a security net, the safety net there, which enables you to do that. And I know I've made some mistakes enabling younger people in my life that way. And it's never served them. Never served them. And if I had just not rushed in to try to help or fix things, I think they would be farther along. And I didn't have that luxury, so I didn't have a choice. But you very well may be right. It's possible, but I think if there's any sort of like bailout there, it's easy to lean on. It reminds me of being in a prize fight, and you see these boxers or these martial artists, and they're literally just like leaning on each other. They're exhausted. If there's something to lean on, you're going to lean on it. But if you have no choice but to keep going, I don't know. It's tough to say without ever having been in that situation. For me, I did not have a choice but to keep moving forward.
I do hear what you're saying there. Yeah. And I'm curious, coming back to that grit, that grind, obviously that's a trait that has served you well over the years, like overall, we can at least say. But have there ever been times throughout the journey where that's been like something you've, pushed too far and faced burnout or, exhaustion or, that can be a double-edged sword. It
Yeah,
needs to be
right.
it's a superpower, but it also needs to be maintained within a certain balance. So have you ever tested those boundaries and went too far and pushed too hard?
Kids will force you again. Like there are these inherent, it's almost like universal speed limits that exist in my life where the kids don't, like, you can't. My I could until my kids. And then my kids, basically, it's like, no, no, you're done working. You will put the phone down now. You will show up and be present for me to tell you this story about school today. And I find that as much as it's like, oh, it's so difficult, work life balance, my kids force that balance upon me. And it is tough because in some cases you look at races that you're getting outpaced. And sometimes I like the competitive part of me is like, this isn't fair. Like, you don't have kids and you don't have a target on your back this big. Like, I spend all day playing defense and being a mom. And you could just get on social media and do whatever you want. Like, like if I lose these races, that competitive part of me in a fantasy world would outwork that person, outrun that person. But with kids, you can't. You just can't. And arguably, not to throw it to something sort of that's a tough concept to grasp, but it's like the faster you go, the more mass you gain, right? Which is why you can never go faster than the speed of light. The more successful you become, the more eyeballs you have on you and the bigger of a target you have on your back. So when it's like death by a thousand cuts, that's real. You spend so much time playing defense that you don't even get the ability to play offense anymore. So there are these kind of inherent walls that you can't you can't really push through, and you're forced to accept the reality of being human. It's like, well, was it good enough? It's got to be good enough. I might not have come in number 1 today. I might not have even come in like in the top 10, but at least I finished. And that's something that you have to accept over time, potentially with a lot of failures along the way, where you start to redefine your idea of success.
Do you have an idea what long-term success is for you and where this is all going? I mean, you've already achieved so much. A lot of people would say, I've had all this success in my life. I can slow down now. I can enjoy the fruits of my labor. But is that in you, Jillian, or is it just are you always looking to what you can do to further enhance your career?
I get interested in different things. Um, which I think is normal, right? We go through different phases of our lives. So for me now, like the Jillian Michaels brand has been very, very good to me, very good to my company. And we have equipment and an app and all the books and all of that. That's all wonderful. And when I have something else to say, I have a medium to say it. Like when I'm ready to write another book, I'll write it. Right now, there's nothing I really want to talk about. If there is, I'm circling around a few ideas, but I want to be super passionate about it. Like I'm comfortable in that place. There's not a whole heck of a lot more I need to do there. But what does interest me is business and looking at completely different models. Sort of, is there this new reality where you have I don't know. We're just looking at a bunch of different stuff of like tokens and fitness worlds and unique like NFTs, right? How do you transcend that entire medium into sports and athletes and what does that look like? And that's the kind of stuff that's fascinating to me now. Or like we got into cryptocurrencies 3 years ago, and now we're starting. Obviously, I say we because my business partner and I, like, we get into a bunch of different things, and we spread chips around the table, whether it's investing in supplement companies or coffee companies or water companies or boutique fitness gyms. I like to kind of put my chips on things I believe in. And then where we start to gain traction, I'll focus my energy. So that stuff is really exciting and interesting to me. That's the stuff I like to grow. So we have a platform called the Fitness app, which was the Jillian Michaels app. And now it's like, who's next? Who can we who can we put on this that's exciting? How do we grow this platform to be a one-stop shop for wellness? So like we just added this gentleman named Jim Donovan, who's a sleep expert. So he has different practices and meditations to help people sleep better. And we just added um, uh, another fitness expert named Taylor Walker Sinning, who's doing an A to Z prenatal fitness program. I want to create a platform for new talent, if that makes any sense. That's the stuff that's kind of exciting to me is new brands, new mediums, new faces. I live off, there's me and that's great. I'm not knocking my own brand, but that is the stuff I'm interested in exploring more of and growing as future businesses.
Well, it's interesting because your name is so big and so out there, and people know when they hear Jillian Michaels who you are. It's interesting that you do bring all these other people into the app and into your world and facilitate their growth and bring them under your wings and help them grow. Because you wouldn't necessarily have to do that. Community it's a really community oriented way of building your platform.
I actually think you do. And as much as I liken it to this. If I was going to toot my own horn, right? If I was going to just pretend I was the greatest thing since sliced bread, like, let's say I was the Nobu of sushi restaurants, right? You're not going to want to have sushi every day. Some days you're going to want Italian food, and some days you're going to want a cheeseburger, and some days you're going to want Mr. Chow Chinese food. Like, even if you were like, I am a Jillian fan. I like Jillian Michaels. I love her stuff. I like to work out there. You're going to want fresh faces, new people who are experts in different modalities. Just you're going to want to enjoy new personalities. And so for me, I benefit off of that. To me, surrounding myself with young talent or investing in other brands just expands my reach. So while there is hopefully, God willing, a halo effect of like, all right, I've built this core audience and now I can provide you with this platform to grow your core audience. Taylor, right? Who's again this one trainer I'm working with, or another one named Jamie McFadden that I've been working with. It's still what is it? It's like a rising tide raises all ships. I think that it just offers more to the consumer and lifts everybody involved up.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's just you wouldn't have to do it that way, and it's nice that you are.
Oh, well, okay. Well, thank you then.
So let's come back to the journey. We've talked a lot about fitness in that part of the journey, but Where along the path did the other lifestyle factors come in? Like, were you into nutrition at the same time at an early age? Sleep, meditation? Was it all fitness in the beginning, and did those things come later on, or were they all kind of adopted around the same period?
It was all about being skinny in the beginning, and I don't care how politically incorrect that is, it's true. I was a teenager, I wanted to be skinny. Not unhealthily skinny, but fit. I did. I wanted to be thin. I wanted to wear a two-piece instead of a one-piece. I wanted to wear skinny jeans. I was a kid. I didn't think about health. I couldn't have cared less. Never crossed my mind. How do I look good? That's what I wanted. Um, so, I mean, I must have tried every stupid thing along the way from, it wasn't called keto, it was called Atkins. It wasn't called paleo, it was called the Neolithic diet. It wasn't, fat free, it was Pritikin. Like we had all the same stupid fads that we have today reskinned for another generation. And I tried them all. I did the fasted cardio. I tried all the different fat burner. I mean, I did all of it. I tried it all. And then as I got older, I really began to understand that what was the most effective, put health aside. I wanted to be smaller, right? What was the most effective for being smaller was that you needed to just stop eating so much food. It wasn't about, there was Susan Powder. You wouldn't even remember this woman. She had these late night infomercials about how fat made you fat, which is absurd. That's not true. Calories make you fat. But anyway, so eventually, after trying all of these things, I came to understand that I just needed to eat a little bit less food. And if I was exercising, I was able to be in good shape, looked good, felt happy about it. So now I'm in my early 30s, very early 30s. I think I had just gotten on Biggest Loser, but there were some issues like with my thyroid and PCOS, and I started to get melasma, which was like this hyperpigmentation on my face. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? Mind you, I'd written a book, a massive bestseller with recipes in it, and I think Splenda was in at least, I don't know, all of them, like artificial sweeteners, all of that shit, all of it. So I went to see an endocrinologist. And I did this whole panel, and all of a sudden, for the first time, this was not about all right, eat less food. And this was looking at health, not weight. It was looking at my overall health and how I had created a variety of issues with my health and thrown my biochemistry off by eating fake foods for so long, thinking, well, they're low in calories. So isn't this great? I began a deep dive into really understanding the way food and lifestyle impact endocrinology and the impact your biochemistry has, not just on your metabolism, but on your overall health and well being. So I ended up writing my third book, which was called Master Your Metabolism. And I wrote that with a board certified endocrinologist. And it ended up being, I would say, probably the biggest book to date that I have ever written. And that's when I began to learn about organic foods. And I began to work with registered dietitians from that point on. I even went back and apologized for making the cut. And I was so, it was about making the cut, being cut. It wasn't about looking at your overall health. So it was through my own journey with wellness for myself that I began to really understand the health piece and do my homework. And I became a certified nutritionist, and I got registered dietitians on staff and started working with endocrinologists. And that's when I was probably around 31, maybe 32.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, being in this world for so long, there's naturally going to be new science, new information. The world's going to evolve. And if you're somebody publicly through books and different mediums putting your message out there, you're going to have to course correct as you go, right? All of us do. And it's just how do you go about putting your tail between your legs when that happens and letting your audience know like this is the way I'm doing it now.
I haven't actually done that since then because the reality is the science is the science. There are certain things we understand about nutrition and health and fitness and health. Um, there's always obviously way more things to learn. Trying to understand how our microbiome impacts our immunity, and there's definitely like, how can we shut off certain blood vessels that feed cancer cells with food? Like, this is, whoa. And you've got guys like Dr. William Lee or David Sinclair. They're like Harvard geneticists and like Harvard angiogenicists, and learning the science of those things is fresh information. But when it comes to fitness, and when it comes to general fitness and its impact on people's wellness, um, general nutrition, the basic rules, that's very much like, 2 plus 2 equals 4. Like, we're not really learning anything new there. So, I just wasn't interested in it as a young kid. I didn't appreciate it until I appreciated it, right? Until it's relevant to you. And at that time, I ended up writing a book about prenatal fitness, with a pediatrician, a board certified endocrinologist, a gynecologist, a registered dietitian, and a pregnancy fitness specialist. But I didn't write that book until my ex had our son. So you're gonna get interested in things at a variety of stages in your life, depending on where you're at, and then you write the book or you do the work, or you put the information in the world. From that point forward, I have never reversed my position on anything. I've never been the one that was like, I'm keto, I'm vegan, I'm this, I'm that. No, because the science is the science and we know it. So when people come to me and they're like, well, what's your take on this? I'm like, this isn't, okay, let me be clear. This isn't an opinion. There's solid science, and this is what the science says. So in that area, I haven't walked anything back. You might make a mistake. You might say something people don't like, and you might choose to walk that back or apologize. There was a comment that I made, God, it was before my kids. I was giving an interview and they asked me if I wanted kids. I said I thought so. They asked me, I think I said I plan on adopting. And that's how the whole thing came up. And they were like, well, what about getting pregnant? And, I had PCOS, and I thought, like, if I tell people, that I've had this, and that it's like, then they'll think I'm not really a health expert. Like, I was insecure about that. I didn't have the confidence that I have now. They'll think that I don't know what I'm doing. So I was like, I just don't know, that I want to put my body through pregnancy. And it turned into, so the Huffington Post created a fake headline, what a shock, and said, Jillian Michaels thinks pregnancy ruins a body. Because of course I didn't say it, but if the implication is that you're thinking it, or they can imply tone. And I had to go back and tell the truth about, that I had PCOS, and I was ashamed to admit it. There's things like that you'll step in a pile of shit this big and be forced to evolve. But when it comes to the information, after I had that, I don't want to say growth spurt, my knowledge, tremendous expansion of my knowledge in the field of not just fitness, but health and wellness. There hasn't been a professional walk back at any point since then.
Right. Well, one example, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, was on intermittent fasting. I know this isn't a major thing, but you did have a pivot. I think at one point you weren't a fan. Now it's something you
Oh,
advocate, and,
I
and
see what
it's
you mean.
something you do with the 12 hours of not eating and 12 hours. You have the 12-hour eating window.
I don't believe in fasting, unless it's a religious thing, like long periods of fast. I also don't believe in intermittent fasting as a means for weight loss. However, when I wrote the book about anti-aging, I began to appreciate the benefits of it for longevity, and essentially allowing your body time to do housekeeping, clean up dead and senescent tissue, focus on a variety of things other than metabolizing your food, and it has to do with certain metabolic pathways like your mTOR pathway and all of that. So that's true. That was gained knowledge, but I never denied the benefits of it with anti-aging. I simply was like, this isn't the best way forward with regard to weight loss. And it isn't. The timing of your food has nothing to do with it. However, if it keeps you from having second dinner or the late night snack, then you could be cutting hundreds, if not thousands of calories over the course of a week, a month, a year. That will impact your weight because inherently you're eating less. But it is good. It is good for your overall health and wellness to create a minimum of 12, maximum of 16-hour window where you're not eating over a 24-hour period. And alcohol was another big walk back. You're right. I didn't think about that. I've always looked at alcohol with regard to weight. And it is one of the worst things you can do if you're trying to lose weight. It will slow down fat metabolism. It's proven. But when it comes to your overall health, it can remove amyloid plaques from your brain. It can help keep your liver functioning optimally, of course, in moderation, right? If you do anything too much, it's going to be totally counterintuitive. Just like caffeine, just like too much of anything for the most part is bad. But you can have like 6 drinks a week and get health benefits from it. So now my position is, if you're trying to lose weight, avoid it. When you get to maintenance mode, incorporate it sparingly and don't drink over 6 drinks a week, and try to choose red wine or dark alcohol. So you're getting the polyphenols and the antioxidants and all that. So you're right. There are little evolutions, but any major like walk back on calories in, calories out, or going organic or eating all 3 macro, like you're never going to hear that come out of my mouth. That's not going to happen. Never. There's no shot.
Let's talk about your diet specifics these days. What's your diet look like? Are you following a specific type of diet, plant-based, paleo, more ancestral? What are you eating?
It's called the common sense diet. I don't overeat. I don't eat more than I burn in a day. I eat my foods in their most natural and whole form possible when possible. So I eat protein, fat, and carbs. I just am choosing an apple, not apple juice, and preferably an organic apple if you have the means. I'm choosing quinoa, not white processed flour pasta, right? I'm choosing organic steel cut oats, not a bagel or a McMuffin at the fast food drive-through. So I eat all 3 macros. I don't overeat them. I eat them in their most whole form, and I try to go organic whenever possible. That's it. That's it. And it's worked perfectly for me and anyone else that I've ever worked with, especially when combined with common sense, consistent fitness, even if it's 4 half hours a week, 4 20-minute sessions a week, 3 20-minute sessions a week, if done properly. While I would love more, we'll get the job done. Absolutely. Like you don't need any of the crazy, you don't need it. It's totally unnecessary.
And for you, you're somebody who's obviously in a stage with your fitness where you're maintaining what you have.
Yeah.
What does that look like for you? How many workouts a week and how long are the workouts?
I do about 4 30-minute workouts a week, but I use the time very efficiently. So body weight training, free weights, hit intervals, all in metabolic circuits. So I don't rest for 30 minutes. I make it count. So could be, 5-minute jump rope warm up. And then let's say some days I'll do like, okay, handstand hold, wall sit, jump squats, 2 rounds, weighted lunges. I have a little chin up bar in the house now since the gym was closed here up until I think 5 seconds ago. Pull-ups, burpees, 2 rounds. And I just keep it moving for 30 minutes and mix it up in that way. Because it's pretty much endless list of different exercises you can do. I used to take a yoga class when they were a thing, and I used to take the occasional spin class because I liked it. I thought it was fun. I like the environment and the music and other coaches. I'm very type A. So I actually like having. I used to train with other trainers again when that was a thing. And I also find it interesting to work with somebody who's like, "Oh, you're a power lifter. Great. Teach me about powerlifting." Because that's not what I do. Trainers, in my opinion, good ones, are very much like doctors. We subspecialize. Like if you came to me and said, "I want to gain 10 pounds of muscle," I mean, I could give you like a general, okay, you need to eat more and you gotta lift heavy. But like, it's not what I do. There are guys that study this 24/7. I would refer you. It's like seeing a cardiologist for a broken foot. Like you just, I am my specialty is I know how to get weight off of people quickly, efficiently. That's what I am amazing at. And helping them just get really lean, get in great overall shape. But I loved training with yogis or endurance athletes or power lifters or guys who do parkours. It's like, teach me. I want to understand, what you do. And a great teacher is always the best student. So I like to be a student of fitness as often as I can be. Although again, there's been a kind of the pandemic slowed that down. So then it's just me 4 times a week in my living room as of late.
I got to say, I appreciate your eagerness to continue to learn and to, bring other people into your world when things aren't in your wheelhouse. Again, it comes back to the app and bringing different people in who specialize in different areas. You're really good at, this is what I'm good at. This is what I can help you with. And then, I need these other people to be part of my team.
Yeah, you have to do that. And it also, especially being me, I learned a very long time ago, potentially off that second book, like, wait a second, wait a second. Like, if I'm going to be putting recipes out there from now on, like, I need to have my certification in nutrition and I need to be working with registered dietitians. Like, I will only go to people who I believe are top in their field because it just makes you that much more bulletproof. So when people want to go after me about keto, I'm like, okay, well, these are the 5 doctors I worked with on this book, and these are all the studies. So, okay, and then a year later, of course, all of a sudden, it's like rated the most unhealthy diet in the world. But it was like I had to take that one on the chin for the first year. It's like no one came out. But if you have that help and that expertise in your corner, it just makes you that much more bulletproof, that much more prepared. And you want to give good advice, right? Like you want to be the best at what you do. You want to do a good job. This is how you do it,
Makes
in
sense.
my opinion.
And Jillian, other than your fitness app, how can people connect with you after the show?
I mean, everything we do now is on the fitness app. So whether it's you can go to jillianmichaels.com or thefitnessapp.com and my blogs are there. Our podcasts stream through there, but you can follow me on social. I do stuff on IGTV and YouTube, all for free. We have free 7-minute workouts on the app. You don't need to pay for anything. You download it just to do these little micro workouts throughout your day. It costs nothing. We have a Facebook community, the Jillian Michaels community. So at least you get community, advice, workouts, all for free. But the app is really my primary hub for me.
All right, I'm going to link it all up in the show notes. And when it comes to the app, does the app have different sections for people depending on their fitness level? If somebody's listening right now and they're ready to take on their first
Yeah.
real dive into fitness, is it for that person plus somebody who's more advanced?
The app has a very unique engine. And when I say engine, I'm speaking particularly about the tech and the way it works. So it customizes everything from your fitness to your nutrition. So, for example, we wanted to create a seamless platform for mindfulness and meditations, food and nutrition, and fitness. For fitness alone, you can show up and say, okay, I just want follow along workouts. Like my entire DVD library is in there if you want it. I want to follow along workout. I want to stream it, cast it to my TV, and I want to work out. Great. I want an audio workout. I'm going for a recovery run. Great. I want a custom workout on the spot. So you can go to the workout generator and say, okay, I'm an intermediate athlete or I'm an advanced athlete. I want 20 minutes today, or it could be 10 minutes, it could be 45 minutes, you choose. I want a total body workout. I want to do abs. I want to do lower body. I have the following pieces of equipment available. And out of the 2,000 exercises, it will create that workout for you on the spot. Or there are programs in there that from yoga to kickboxing to weight loss to muscle gain. Sorry, my dog has decided he wanted to wake up in the middle at the end of our interview. And it's essentially all customizable based on your fitness level, your fitness goal, your fitness likes, how you want to train, where you want to train, in the gym, outside, at home. So that's the whole idea, is that it's the most customizable fitness, nutrition, and mindfulness program all on one platform. So you don't need 3 apps, if you will.
And people can get started for free, which is nice.
Oh yeah, you can do a 7-day free trial. If you don't like it, just cancel it.
All right,
I love
Jillian.
that.
I know you got to go, but I really enjoyed our conversation, diving into your journey and getting to know you a little better. So thank you.
No, thank you, sweetheart. Have a good one. I really appreciate the time.
You too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.